owl is red, as it should be until the Zoom is on?
The owl is,
Red.
so it's not behaving.
Well, I don't know, it shouldn't be red, should it? If it, the bottom here? I don't know. Well, is the live stream operating?
I'm checking that right now.
Okay. It's going to operate the live stream. There was always a technology delay before the service starts, always.
I can hear you on my phone.
That's a good sign.
Live stream should be working. Seems to be working. Live stream is working. So that's good.
Modeh, shall we? Okay. Modeh ani lefanecha, melech chai v'kayam, shechezarta binishmati b'chemla, rabba emunatecha. Modeh ana lefanayich, melech chai v'kayam, shechezarta binishmati b'chemla, rabba emunatecha. Rabba emunatecha.
Hello and Shabbat Shalom to everybody.
Hello, Shabbat Shalom. Welcome
So nice
back.
to see everyone. Thank you.
You too.
Just returned from Israel yesterday. So thank you. Very nice. So I don't really know what time it is or where I am.
Where he is.
To be fair, if you know me, I really don't know where I am most of the time. But if you sprinkle on the fact that I'm a little jet lagged, then yes, just a little tired. But it was excellent trip. And if you were here last night, I talked about that I was on a JNF USA mission. And if you know anything about the JNF, the first thing you think of is trees, usually because you plant the trees for people. But we learned that it's much more than that. And it was quite inspiring, and you might get exhausted by the amount of time I'm going to spend in the next weeks and months discussing the importance of JNF USA and how important it is for us to talk about. So I apologize in advance for how much I'm going to talk about, how great the and inspiring and the work that JNF USA does in Israel, where it crosses no political lines. It's really, really fabulous. So it's nice to be back to see all of you, and nice to be home. And nice to be here on Shabbat morning. Robin, thank you. The purpose of me going was I'm what's called a rabbi for Israel as part of the JNF USA, and it was only available for those rabbis. So there are 150 rabbis in the country that are considered JNF, whatever they're Israel rabbis, and so 4. It was a very exclusive trip, so we weren't just in a van. There were just 4 of us. 4 of us, the woman who represented JNF, and the driver, who's not just a driver, he's also a JNF employee, and he has been for more than 20 years. So it was actually really intimate and great and inspiring, and happy to talk to you about it more at Oneg. But it's really, really fabulous, and you'll be hearing me talk about it for a lot. Get ready. It's coming. So I have several stories. Oh yes, of several of those places. Yeah, several of the places that we saw and talked about. So we'll talk more about it. Let's do our Nisim B'chol Yom. Let's continue there. Were you going to go somewhere else? No. All right. Were you just strumming so that?
Anywhere you want me to go.
No. Well, I don't want to cramp your style. What were you going to do?
It was Mata Uba. We did an introductory song, so we don't need a second.
Fine, okay. All right, well, we continue with the Simba Choyom, our daily blessings and miracles, page 175.
Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam asher natan lasachvi v'naha lahavchin bein yom uvein laila.
Amen. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam pokeach ivrim.
Amen. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam matir asurim.
Amen. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam zokef kefufim.
Amen. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam rokah haaretz al hamayim.
Amen. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam hamechin metzadei gaver.
Amen. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam malbish arumim.
Amen. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam hanoten layaef koach.
Amen. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam hama'avir sheinai me'inai u'numa me'afapai.
Amen. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam שעשני בצלם אלוהים.
Amen. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam she'asani bat chorim.
אמן. ברוך אתה אדוני אלוהינו מלך העולם שעשני ישראל.
Amen. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam ozer Yisrael bigvura.
אמן. ברוך אתה אדוני אלוהינו מלך העולם עוטר ישראל בתפארה.
Amen.
Our daily section of Psalms, Psuksei de Zimra, can be found on page 183.
Baruch Shema v'haya haolam.
Baruch Hu.
Baruch Hosei v'reshit.
Baruch Omer v'yoseh.
Baruch Gozer Makayim.
Baruch merachem al haaretz.
Baruch Merachem al habriot.
Baruch meshalem sachar tov l'reyav.
Baruch Elad v'kayim lanetzach.
Baruch poder matzil Baruch shemo.
Blessed is the one who spoke and the world came to be.
Blessed is the one.
Blessed is the one who continually authors creation.
Blessed is the one whose word is deed.
Blessed is the one who decrees and fulfills.
Blessed is the one who's compassionate towards the world.
Blessed is the one who is compassionate towards all creatures.
Blessed is the one who roars the reverence.
Blessed is the one who exists for all time, ever enduring. Blessed is the one who redeems and saves. Blessed is God's name. Baruch atah Adonai, melech mehulal v'tishbachot.
We continue now with little mini ashrei at the top of page 185.
Ashrei yoshvei beitecha, odeh hallelu chasela. Ashrei yoshvei beitecha, odeh hallelu chasela. Ashrei, ashrei, ashrei yoshvei beitecha. Ashrei, ashrei, ashrei yoshvei beitecha. Happy are those who dwell in your house. They will sing your praises forever. Happy are those who dwell in your house. They will sing your praises forever. Ashrei yoshvei beitecha. Odeh hallelu chasela. Ashrei yoshvei beitecha. Odeh hallelu chasela.
We continue with the conclusion of Psuksei de Zimra, which is Shochen Ad, found right in the middle of page 192.
Shochen ad maharom v'kadosh shemo v'chatu raninu tzadikim baronai l'sharim nevad tehila b'fi sharim titalal uv'divrei tzadikim titbarach uv'elshon chasidim titromam uv'kerev kadoshim titkadash ובמחלות רביבות, עמך בית ישראל, ברינה יתפאר שמך מלכנו, בכל דור ודור. ישתבח שמך לעד מלכנו, האל המלך הגדול והקדוש, בשמיים ובארץ, ברוך אתה אדוני, אל מלך גדול בתשבחות, אל ההודעות אדון הנפלאות, הבוחר בשירי זמרה, מלך אלכי העולמים.
חצי קדש, 194.
יתגדל ויתקדש שמי רבה, ויעמד יברך חירותי, וימלך מלכותי, בחייכון ובימיכון וחיי לכל בית ישראל, בעגלה ובזמן קריב, ואמרו אמן. יהי שמי רבה מברך לעולם ולעלמיה. יתברך וישתבח ויתפאר ויתרומם וינשא, ויתהדר ויתהלל ויתהלל שמי לקודשו ברכו, לעילה מן כל ברכתה ושירתה, תושבחתה ונחמתה, דיאמירה בימה, ויאמרו amen.
Continue now with our call to worship, Baruch Hu 195, and together we stand.
La 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 la. La 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 la. Ya la 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 la. Baruchu et Adonai HaMevorach. Again, Baruchu et Adonai HaMevorach. Baruch Adonai HaMevorach le'olam va'ed. Baruch Adonai HaMevorach le'olam va'ed. La 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 ya la 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 ya la 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 ya la la ya la 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 ya la 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 la.
Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam yotzer or v'choshech oseh shalom uvoreh et hakol. Please be seated. We continue with Ahava Rabbah, which can be found on the top of page 198. Anu Adonai Eloheinu Amada Aleinu. חיים והאר עינינו בתורתך, דבק ליבנו במצוותיך. לאהבה וליראה את שמך. לעולם ועד. השם קודשך פתחנו, נגילה ונשמחה בישועתך. באהבה. continue V'ahavta 201. את אדוני אלוהיך בכל לבבך ובכל נפשך ובכל מאודיך, והיו הדברים האלה אשר אנוכי מצווך היום על לבבך, ודיברת בם בשבתך בביתך ובלכתך בדרך ובשוכבך ובקומך, וקשתם מאוד על ידיך, והיו לטוטפות בין עיניך, וכתבתם על מזוזות ביתך ובשעריך. 202. יאמר אדוני אל משה לאמור, דבר אל בני ישראל ואמרת עליהם, ועשו להם ציצית על כנפי בגדיהם לדורותם, ונתנו על ציצית הכנף תחיר תכלת, והיה לכם לציצית תם אותו, וזכרתם את כל מצוות אדוני ועשיתם אותם, לא תטורו אחרי לבבכם אשר אתם זונים אחריהם, למען תזכרו ועשיתם את כל מצוותיי, והייתם קדושים לאלוהיכם. אני אדוני אלוהיכם, אשר הוצאתי אתכם מארץ מצרים, להיות לכם לאלוהים. אני אדוני אלוהיכם, Adonai Elohechem Emet. We continue now with our song of redemption, Micha Mocha, which can be found on page 204. La 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 la. מי כמוך באלים אדוני, מי כמוך נדע בקודש, נורא תהילות אוסף אלה, נורא תהילות אוסף אלה. רוח חדשה שיבחו גאולים, הודו והמליכו ואמרו, אדוני ימלוך לעולם ועד, אדוני ימלוך לעולם ועד. לי 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 Lai 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 lai. Israel, Kuma Bezrat Israel, Uvdei Chinumecha, Yehuda veYisrael, Go'aleinu Adonai Tzevaot Shemo, Kedosh Israel, Baruch Adonai, Israel. We continue with the Amidah 205. Adonai sifatai tiftach ufi tehilatecha. Adonai, open up my lips that my mouth may declare your praise. Baruch atah
Adonai Eloheinu, Velohei Avotenu, Ve'imotenu, Elohei Avraham, Elohei Yitzchak, Velohei Yaakov, Elohei Sarah, Elohei Rivka, Elohei Rachel, Velohei Leah, Ha'el Hagadol, Hagibor, Ve'hanora, El Elyon, Gomel Chasadim Tovim, Ve'konei HaKol, Ve'zocher Chastei Avot Ve'imahot, Umevi Gula Libnei V'neihem, Leman Shemo B'Ahava, Melech Ozer U'Moshia U'Magen, Baruch Atah Adonai, Magen Avraham Ve'ezrat Sarah. Ata Gibor Leolam Adonai, Mechayeh HaKol Ata Rav Lehoshia, Morid HaTal, Mechakel Chaim Bechesed, Mechayeh HaKol Berachamim Rabim, Somech Noflim Verofech Olim, Umatir Asurim, Umekayem emunato lishenei afar michamocha bal gevurot umido melech melech memin umechayeh umatzmiach Yeshua v'ne'eman ata lehachayot hakol Baruch atah Adonai Mechayeh HaKol.
Continue with the Kedusha, page 208.
Nekadesh et shimcha ba'olam, Kishem shemakdishim oto bishmei marom, Kakatuv al yad neviecha, V'kara zel zeh ve'amar, Kadosh, 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 Adonai Tzivaot, Melo Haaretz Kevodo. Adir, Adirenu Adonai, Adonenu Madir Shimcha B'chol Haaretz. Baruch Kevod Adonai Mimkomo. Echadu Eloheinu, Hu Avinu, Hu Malkeinu, Hu Moshienu, Vehu Yashmienu, Berachamav Le'nei Kol Chai. Ani Adonai Elohechem, Yimloch Adonai Le'olam, Elohai Yitzion. Ledor vador, hallelujah. Ledor vador, ledor vador, ledor vador, nagid God lecha. Ledor vador, ledor vador, ledor vador, nagid God lecha. Ulenetzach netzachim, kedushatcha nagdish, kedushatcha nagdish. V'shivchacha Eloheinu, mipinu lo yamush leolam va'ed. Ledor vador, ledor vador, nagid God lecha. Ledor vador, nagid God lecha. Baruch atah Adonai, Ha'el HaKadosh.
We continue now with our own silent prayers, thoughts, meditations, beginning here on page 210, continuing through page 219. When you're finished, please be seated.
Say shalom, shalom bimromav, hu yaseh shalom aleinu ve'al kol Yisrael ve'emru amen. Hu yaseh shalom aleinu ve'al kol Yisrael amen, amen. Oh, say shalom, shalom bimromav, hu yaseh shalom aleinu ve'al kol Yisrael ve'emru amen. Ve'al kol Yisrael amen.
We continue now with Seder Kriyat Torah, the service for reading the Torah, which can be found on page 244.
Ein kamocha ve'Elohim Adonai, ve'en kema'asecha, malchutecha malchut kol olamim, umemshaltecha bechol dor vador. Adonai melech, Adonai malach, Adonai yimloch leolam vahed. Adonai oz le'amo yitain, Adonai yivarech et amo v'shalom. Av harachamim hetiva vertzoncha et Zion. Tivnei chomot Yerushalayim, Tivnei chomot Yerushalayim. Ki vecha levad batachnu, melech el ram v'nisa, Adon olamim. Ki mitzion tetzei Torah, Ki mitzion tetzei Torah, Udevar Adonai mirushalayim, Baruch shenatan Torah, Torah, Baruch shenatan Torah, Torah, le'amo Yisrael b'kedushato. Shema Yisrael, Adonai Eloheinu, Adonai echad, echad Eloheinu, Gadol Adonenu, Kadosh Shemo. Gadlu Adonai iti, uneramima Shemo yaktav. Lecha Adonai hagedula v'hagevura v'hatiferet v'hanetzach v'hahod. Kicho bashamayim uvaretz, Kicho bashamayim uvaretz. Lecha Adonai hamamlacha v'hamid nahaseh lechol erosh. Torah ora, Torah ora, hallelujah. Torah ora, Torah ora, hallelujah, hallelujah. Torah ora, Torah ora, hallelujah. Torah ora, Torah ora,
Please be seated. We will be reading from the Torah portion of Chukat this morning. Chukat. It is a double portion, but I mentioned last night that I talked about Balak a little last night, so I mentioned last night that we will do Chukat. Let me open up the Zoom. Hello, Zoom. Yes, sorry. It is in the book of Numbers, and it is chapter 19. Numbers 19. Numbers 19. Numbers 19. This should work. Numbers 19. Numbers 19. Numbers 19. I have 327 in my book. So 327 in my book. Chukat chapter 19. I think the owl's working. I actually think it's working. All right. Yeah? You see its eyes, right? The eyes are on? Yeah. Ooh, ooh. Like when it hoots. It didn't hoot this morning. All right. Someone else looks like is joining us by phone. That's interesting. Okay. Looks to be working now. Everything's working. All right. The technology is working for the moment. So we're gonna go with that. All right, so double portion this week. I actually mentioned in the Shabbat message that Anna mentioned last night too, actually, that I sometimes I don't mind when Torah portions are coupled, because sometimes one Torah portion is kind of more interesting than the other Torah portion, so it's kind of nice to not mention the other one for the sake of time, so because we can't cover both. But this week is one of those weeks where I wish they weren't coupled, because both Chukat and both Balak are massive, fascinating, super interesting, really meaningful Torah portions, and so we will not be able to cover both because we won't be able to. If by some miracle we finish chatting about Chukat in the next 3 to 4 hours, then we'll move to. Then we'll spend a few minutes looking at Balak, but I doubt we'll get there, which is why last night I talked about Balak a little bit instead. So we're going to look at the Torah portion of Chukat. It is pretty deep in the book of Numbers, the fourth book of the Torah. And if you are, I mentioned this also in Torah study, that if you are a Moses fan, then this is a very challenging Torah portion. If you are a Moses fan, it's a tough one. Not that last week wasn't tough. If you remember from last week, you talked about the rebellion. Right? You remember there was a rebellion last week. Rabbi Khan was here. She clued me in a little bit on what you guys chatted about, but I think you talked about the not just a rebellion or not just your action, but how you do things makes a difference. So that was last week, and so he had a rough week last week because he had his cousin essentially rebel against him in front of the entire Jewish community, which was tough. And this week we get to the Torah portion of Chukat. So we're going to read a little bit of the beginning of it just to set the stage for some interesting components, but we're actually going to stop pretty early at the beginning, and we're going to spend more time looking at chapter 20 than we are at chapter 19, just for your own purpose of jumping a little on pages. So let's do our blessing. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam asher kitshanu b'mitzvotav v'tzivanu la'asok b'divrei Torah. All right. Who wants to read for us? Anyone want to open up our reading for us this morning? Our usual Linda reader. She's not here. So, they didn't send me their usual, their permission slip. They usually send me a permission slip for them not to be here. It's usually in triplicate, and they didn't send me their permission slip. So I don't know. I have to check on them to make sure they're okay. All right. Who wants to open up the reading for us? Anyone want to open up in English? Sure. Yeah. Yeah, in English. Yeah. Do you want the microphone also? Yeah, here. The microphone is right there. And it should be enough slack to get to you. Yep. There you go. It should be pretty good. Yeah. Keep going. Keep going. How's that going? And there you go. All right. Great. Thanks. Thanks, Debbie.
The Eternal One spoke to Moses and Aaron, saying, "This is the ritual law that the Eternal has commanded. Instruct the Israelite people to bring you a red cow without a blemish, in which there is no defect, on which no yoke has been laid. You shall give it to Eleazar the priest. It shall be taken outside the camp and slaughtered in his presence. Eleazar the priest shall take some of its blood with his finger and sprinkle it 7 times toward the front of the tent of meeting. The cow shall be burned in his sight, its hide, flesh, and blood shall be burned, its dung included. And the priest shall take cedar wood, hyssop, and crimson stuff, and throw them into the fire, consuming the cow. The priest shall wash his garments and bathe his body in water. After that, the priest may re-enter the camp, but he shall be impure until evening. The one who performed the burning shall also wash those garments in water, bathe in water, and be impure until evening. Another party who is pure shall gather up the ashes of the cow and deposit them outside the camp in a pure place, to be kept for water of lustration for the Israelite community. It is for purgation. The one who gathers up the ashes of the cow shall also wash those clothes and be impure until evening."
Awesome. Thank you. Excellent day. All right. What is this? And I'm only putting a small time limit on it also because I want to look at the next chapter. But we're going to do 5 to 7 minutes on this weirdness. So what is this? Yeah?
It's a community that existed many years ago, which we can't imagine.
Okay, right. It is a system, well said, it is a ritualistic system that clearly is very foreign to us, because the Jewish people do not do this. I will say I don't do this. I presume that you don't also do this. You don't take cows in the back of your house and slaughter them. No judgment, by the way, if you do, but that's not something that I like to do. So that's if you are something that's fine. So yes, so but what is particularly interesting about this cow? Was that? It's red. It's red. How many people have ever seen a red cow before? All right, great. So it's kind of sienna, yes? You've seen a red cow before? Yeah? Okay. So now they exist. There are red cows. This one, however, was supposed to be completely red and without blemish. So that means that hypothetically the priests would look through every part of its hair, if you will, and if there was some of it that wasn't red, it wasn't the red heifer, if that makes sense. So, right, yeah, so no one dyed it. Yes, that would have gone against this whole system. But, so some people believe, by the way, that it never happened. It never really existed because they couldn't find this perfect cow. Because if you found this perfect cow, what was it going to be used for? A sacrifice. What particularly? What is it? Yes, purification. So it was supposed to be used particularly because it says, if you look at verse 9, it says a man should clean up the gathering of the ashes outside to be kept for the water of lustration. What's lustration? Purity, exactly. So it was sort of like the official cleansing. It was the cleansing tool, the waters from this random red cow were going to be used to officially cleanse the people. So if it existed, we could say, yay, they were cleansed by this weird cow. Or if one says maybe it never really existed, they have to do it some other ways. Yes?
There are heifers that are born red, and then as they develop,
yes,
in the second and third year,
they shed it.
they shed the red and then they have the color. So if you read in this, it says you got to be 3 years to 5 years old.
Right. So,
Chance of getting a pure red heifer.
was super low. Exactly. Great. It's a very good point. So yes, when they came out, some people were like, "Yay, we did it!" But it's not. You're not allowed to do that. You're supposed to wait till about the 5th year.
It's symbolic of us being born pure and
Very nice, beautiful. Yes, it's symbolic of the fact that everyone's sort of born pure, but also maybe we mess up very early, very, very quickly. Dr. Bob, yeah?
Yeah, I think what we've got is a system to separate the sacred from the profane.
Nice.
If we could redefine purification as ritually eligible and as opposed to ritually ineligible.
Nice.
It's a way of separating your status religiously.
Very nice. Beautiful. Which also, by the way, eventually, whether you believe in the red heifer or you don't believe in the red heifer, there is the conception that as we've taken these steps, it's not the first time that we've talked about the water and the cleansing, that these are all the building blocks that will eventually be the mikvah, right? Because the water in the mikvah also has to be a certain way. You can't just open up your faucet, fill up your mikvah, and dip in it. It had to be, it's not allowed. It has to be uncaptured water. It has to be natural water. So all of these components show us that how difficult it must have been to find the right way to go through the transition of cleansing yourself, which also goes back to the idea of don't be so bad that you have to consistently be cleansing yourself ritually. Also, it's showing us because it's so hard to do so. So all these components are doing this great separation that's showing us on how we're supposed to just be as holy as we possibly can. So whether the head heifer existed or didn't, maybe it doesn't matter. Yeah, what are you going to say?
I was going to say it's notable that by Daber Adonai El Moshe El Aharon, he spoke to Moses and Aaron. Usually he just talks to Moses.
Yes, nice. Yes, speaking to both of them, and even though sometimes the ritual is coming and it's for Aaron, as you recall, it's only Moses that gets it. So it is interesting here. That's a good point. That they both are directly being spoken to by God. It's possible because it is a foreshadow of what's coming. So it's possible. It's possible that they're both on here because it's in a few verses you might see why, hypothetically. So okay, there was another hand. Was there another hand? You're going to ask a question? No? Yeah.
Would be a way of limiting the number of people who would be touching a decomposing body.
Oh, interesting. There's also it's very nice. There's also a very strong level of general cleanliness, right? That exists. Clearly, even this holy cow, if you found it, that you still have to be very clean in the cleansing. What you do with the clothes afterwards, where you're separate. You're unclean till evening, just to make sure that you're all cleansed, right? That all that blood or all of that's off of you. So clearly there is a system that's also helping to separate the Israelites from the rest of the people around them. And by the way, by this point, there is a lot of people around them. So as we'll actually find out, if we could read, which we still can, Balak, the portion that's connected. Certainly there are people around them. So that's a very nice point that it's also about cleanliness in general that God's teaching the Israelites and has been. Nice, yes.
Just noticing, like, it names the priest, like, assuming that this would be still going on in present day.
Yeah.
Would there have to be a priest Eliezer, or would it be just any high priest?
It would be, if we still lived by the priesthood, which we don't, it would be in the descendant all the way from Aaron. So priests can only be passed from the father. So which are Cohens, which are Kohanim. So hypothetically, there would be like a pope. We would have a pope type figure, and it would be someone that we would somehow elect in some way and know that it's the descendant of Aaron, and they would be in charge of all the rituals. We'd probably have to go to Jerusalem like before. I was just there, by the way. It was lovely. But we'd have to go to Jerusalem, and we'd have to do this all in front of the temple. If we had the temple, if we had a priesthood, we would still do it. Yeah.
There seems to be an element of nobody's
Yes.
So that means it's impossible for any of us to achieve this status where we never are ineligible.
Beautiful. So much so, very good, so much so, not even if you look past the color for a second, it also talks about it has to be without blemish. And how many things in this world are without blemish? Let's be realistic. Right, except for Harry, who's pointing to himself, by the way. Right, so other than Harry, there are very few people or things or anything that are without blemish, right? So it's interesting to make that really nice point that there should not be a society that it's consistently seeking something that's without blemish, because we're all blemished in some way. Yeah.
Rabbi, it makes me think, I mean, this is funny in my mind. Maybe the expression of how now brown cow.
Yeah. It's very possible that's where it came from. Yeah, it's very possible that's where the how now brown cow thing came from. I will end with this as we transition, is that I have a very good friend who is a rabbi. He's a rabbi in Arizona now, but he was for a long time a rabbi in Texas. And he got a phone call once that said, hi, I'm so-and-so, I'm not Jewish, but I wanted to call and tell you, because I follow the Bible. He said, I'm a true Christian, but I'm calling to tell you that I found the red heifer. That he said, I raise cows, and I'm in like wherever he was in Dallas, but he said whatever little town in Texas, and he said, I'm going to encourage you to come and drive here and see it. I checked the whole cow from top to bottom, and it's 3 years old, and it's from top to bottom, and it's all red, and I found the red heifer, and so he always tells a story, and I said, so did you go? And he was like, no, I didn't go. It's not like it's like 2 hours away. I didn't go and find it. I was like, you missed out on possibly finding the actual red heifer. So there are obviously people who are still seeking this, for people who share our text with us, are still seeking the red heifer. So if, by the way, you do come across a red cow after the age of 3, you give me a call. We will win the prize. Yes.
I found it interesting how it says you take the ashes of the cow, bury it outside, and that will be the place of the water of illustration. Does this mean that you bury the ashes and this is where the water will come from? And if so, does that have some metaphorical meaning that our purification comes from the ashes of those who came before us? Or am I reading too much into this?
I think in this case, it's a little bit of a leap, but there is a nice connection to where they're at, like where the ashes are, and then how it's blended with the water, and then that becomes the holy place. But I think it's probably a little jump. I like how you're jumping. I like where your head's going with it, but I think it's a little bit for me. Yeah, nice. Yes.
So isn't it fair to say throughout the ages, this has never been complied with? Because no one has ever been able to find a red heifer.
So some people say that this was the only occurrence. If you want to go with it, it happened one time and it was here. That was the last time it happened. Or one can say there are connections in texts and in history to say that they have been found throughout history, that it's not been the one and only time. The other issue, by the way, is even if we found it, we don't practice this anymore. So this system is gone anyway. Even if we found the red heifer, even if that guy who called in Texas, the answer is mazel tov. There's nothing we can do about it because there's no way to, the priest, there's no priesthood. So there's no one to create the system in which that it was going to function the way it was going to function. It might have been just a good photo op to stand next to the cow and be like, I found the red cow. So
The important thing is people probably aspired to get as close to it as they possibly can.
absolutely. Well, absolutely. Because it was clearly, if it was correct and done properly and ritualistically, it was the water that could really transform you and transition you from whatever you were doing into the sense of purity. So it was clearly, people were attempting to attain a possibility of being near this thing.
Not just any old cow.
Right, not just any old cow, but this particular red cow. So it's odd. Odd, but very interesting. All right, we are going to transition to chapter 20. So you are not that far off, I don't think. Same page, next page. Oh, all right. So you said, you did a little checking. You went a little bit backwards checking until last week too. Yeah. So Robin is saying that God speaks directly to Aaron in 18:1 and in 18:8. Yeah, so that's last week. But yeah, there are occurrences where God speaks directly to Aaron, but it's usually interesting that it's Moses. And even though the information is for Aaron, a lot of times Moses is still the one who hears it first. But it's interesting that this one has both, which we'll see was coming up. All right, chapter 20. Here we go. You want to keep reading? Or pass?
What verse am I stopping at?
I don't know. We'll see how it goes.
All right. You say stop.
Well, you're only reading the first one anyway, right now. So only one verse.
Perfect.
All right.
The Israelites arrived in a body at the wilderness of Zin on the first new moon, and the people stayed at Kadesh. Miriam died there and was buried there.
Okay. So, what's that?
They arrived in a body?
They arrived, as like a group.
Oh.
Yeah. So they get to the Israelites arrive on the wilderness of Zin on the new moon, and the people stayed at Kadesh. They've been there before, by the way. This is not the first time that they've been there. So they're back to the same spot that they were before. If you feel like checking, you don't have to, but if you feel like checking, their first occurrence was in Exodus chapter 17. Just letting you know. So they end up there, and as I mentioned to you before, this is one of the toughest portions for Moses, because as we read in verse 1b, essentially, Miriam dies. So his sister dies in that spot. So Moses is already in a terrible place. If you know anything about the story that has to do with Miriam in general, and you hear the word Miriam, you know that the word yam is in it, and yam means sea. Yes, sea or ocean, not sea as in this sea, but S-E-A. And it's believed, by the way, that Miriam was the water source in the desert somehow. She was just, maybe it was an innate skill, or she was good at finding water, or because she was Miriam. However you want to go about it. Plus her name was Yam. If you think about her, she was the one who. What did she do at the parting of the sea? She sang and she danced. She found Moses in the Nile. So all the components that has to do with the perpetuation of the story of how the story really works from the beginning with Moses and how he connects to Miriam, all really surround water. And so it's interesting that after you read the end of 1, that she dies. Let's continue, please. Verse 2, it says, oh yeah.
I was going to say, it's very sad. That's literally just a sentence of her death.
That's it. It just says that she dies. Yeah, it doesn't go on to any, there's no other explanation why or how, or it just says that she dies. And because she dies, hypothetically, here's verse 2.
The community was without water.
Okay, great. So because she dies, hypothetically, now there's no access to water because she was the one who was, I don't know, however you want to believe this, she herself was the water source, God was part of that water source, or literally she was just good at finding the water source. We can go with any of these that you like. But because she dies, she's without water. Please continue.
And they joined against Moses and Aaron. The people quarreled with Moses, saying, "If only we had perished when our brothers perished at the instance of the Eternal. Why have you brought the Eternal's congregation into this wilderness for us, and our beasts to die there? Why did you make us leave Egypt to bring us to this wretched place, a place with no grain or figs or vines or pomegranates? There is not even water to drink."
Okay, so I would like for us to think about a lot of components here. So first of all, let's look at verse 2. Then we're going to look at the larger picture. So if you look at verse 2, the community was without water, so they're upset. They're clearly upset because they joined against Moses and Aaron. So what does that mean? What does that mean? I want us to be really focused in and specific about behaviors. What does that mean?
They lost their faith.
So they lost some faith. Nice. It was another rebellion, right? So, and I want you to think last week. What was last week? A rebellion. So I want you just to think about the situation in which Moses and Aaron are in. Plus add to the fact, why would Aaron and Moses also be in a bad place? Their sister just died, right? So their sister just died, and now there's no water. And the first thing the Israelites do is, and you made a beautiful comment to say, it doesn't say anything about what they did for Miriam. So it doesn't say that there was a burial. It doesn't say that they took a day. It doesn't say. They might have. It just doesn't say. We just don't know, right?
It says that they buried her.
Yeah, right. So they buried her. But we don't know, perhaps, that it took a long time to bury her. Perhaps there was a long window of time. We just don't know. It doesn't say. But just think where Moses and Aaron are in this moment. And so now the first thing the Israelites do is, they didn't just say, I'm thirsty. It says that they quarreled, right? So they joined against them. The people quarreled with Moses, saying, if only we had perished. So now, to go back to the faith thing, the first thing they do automatically is, the second they have a little pushback against them, the Israelites are, you know what? Again, you took us to this place. We were so happy in Egypt. And by the way, this is the beginning of the new crew. Yeah, the old crew is gone. This is the beginnings of the new crew. This is because the 40-year system is kicked in here. Yeah.
This is also the same exact thing that the older brother was saying. If only we had died in Egypt, why did you bring us here? If only we had
Yes.
died in the wilderness.
And by the way, it's in the same exact spot. So if you know the story of the parting of the sea, and the women dancing with their timbrels, woo! After that's over, if you know in the text, the second that's over, the first thing they say is, we're thirsty. Why'd you bring us to this why'd you take us out of Egypt? Literally, they walked through the sea, they were dancing, the sea closes, and the next sentence in Exodus is, where's our water? And by the way, they're in the same exact spot location-wise. So they've returned to the similar spot, which also shows you the Israelites never really left an area. They never really went very far. They were just, the wandering wasn't distance-wise. It was just that they were wandering in general, right? So they rail against Moses and Aaron. They quarrel with him. If only we had perished with our brothers and sisters at the instance of the Lord. What are they referring to there? If only we had died in the instance of the Lord. What are they referring to? What's that? Last week, exactly. Because several people died last week because they were part of the wrong team that went against Moses and Aaron, right? So if only we had died last week, yes?
I just have a question just timing-wise.
Yeah.
2 weeks ago, we talked about spies.
Yes.
How many years has passed to where we are now?
Oh, such a good question. So yes, so we're probably in the 30 to 38 year mark. It's somewhere in the two. So between Shlach Lecha, which was 2 weeks ago, and here, we're probably between the 30 and 38 years of the 40. It says it. If you follow the structure of the text and the months and stuff and the moons, and you look at it, then yeah. Also very, very orthodox, ultra-orthodox commentary is very specific because it shows you all kinds of other stuff. But if you just want to play with the text itself, it'll show you that we're around the year. And if you eventually, when you get to Numbers 33, which we're not there yet, but if you get to 33, there's proof text for the 40 years. It shows you that window. So yes. So we're in that. So they're at it, which means that this is the new crew already because we're well into the 40-year mark. It's not like it's year 9. And we still have all this time left. It's way. So I want us to put the feeling that Moses and Aaron are having here? Like how do you think they feel? Yes, exasperated, frustrated, yeah.
Why wouldn't they feel excited?
What?
They know that they have to wander for 40 years, and there's 38 years already gone. They should be excited.
The people you're saying? Yeah.
2 years left. We're almost done with this.
Yeah, we're almost done with this. We're almost there. Why is there still whining? Yeah.
How would they have known that they're going to do this for exactly 40 years?
Oh, they were told. They were told. They were told. They're told in Shlach Lecha because they didn't have the faith in the system. When the spies came back and only 2 of them say yes and 10 of them say no, God says because you didn't trust in the system, now you're going to wander for the 40 years. So because even though we read all of Leviticus and part of Numbers, it's not till Shlach Lecha that they find out the 40 year thing, which is why Shlach Lecha, by the way, is the best Torah portion in the entire Torah. Which that was the bar mitzvah. That's about my bar mitzvah portion. So yeah, so it's also very significant because it has the spies, but also because it was the one that I became bar mitzvah. So best Torah portion in the entire Torah. Best Torah portion in the entire. Just put it out there. Just put it out. There are other ones, but they're pale in comparison. Yes.
The commentaries at the bottom of 2021, it says 38 years later.
Great. Okay. Fine. So yeah. It's in the commentary. It does say it's the 38 years. And again you can count it between the time of the spies return and then yeah. So okay. So it's easy to think that why should the Israelites be happier, but also how Moses and Aaron are feeling at this moment. Sometimes we just go through this text and we're just like, blah, 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 blah. Let's go to the next. Think about how they're feeling. Schlepping these people, the 1.2-ish million people who are wandering here, and the whining. And now it goes on to say, right, why have you brought the Lord's congregation into this wilderness for us and our beasts to die here? Right, here's 5. Why did you make us leave Egypt to bring us to this wretched place, a place with no grain and no figs or vines or pomegranates? There is not even water to drink. Oh, so bad. All right, yes.
You have to think about, if I were amongst these people,
Right.
what would I be doing? Would I be
Right.
whining or not whining?
Right. It's so tough to say because in similarity to go back to Shlach Lecha, the best Torah portion ever, right? That how do you know that you wouldn't be in the 10, verse 2? Like how do you know you wouldn't be? Because it was the 12 heads of the tribes went, the best possible choices that could have been sent. It says that in the text over and over and over. It's going to say, we're going to get reminded of that, by the way, in Deuteronomy. It's going to remind us that the 12 people who were sent were not just the regulars. They were the best of the best of the best from each tribe. So how come only 2 people, who were the 2 people, by the way? Joshua and Caleb, good. How come only Joshua and Caleb are the only ones who say anything? So it's interesting you make that point. We'd like to think that we'd be on that crew and be like, oh no, we can do it. Or we'd be on the other 10. It's hard to be in the 2 verse to 10 and say, well, I guess it just stinks that we're here. Yeah.
I was going to get ahead of Moses and Aaron.
What? All right. So, okay. So we're on 6. You want to keep reading?
Moses and Aaron came away from the congregation to the entrance of the tent of meeting and fell on their faces.
Okay, so what does this mean, by the way?
They prayed.
They prayed. So they humbled themselves.
Because the people were looking for instant gratification and no longer had faith that God would take care of them and do what needs to be done.
Excellent.
They have no answer, that's supposed to check with God.
Exactly. So they also have no, so practically they have no answer. So, and then in a larger view, it's just sort of a,
They were so frustrated.
yes,
And pain so bad about what was taking place.
yes,
People no longer having the faith
Yes.
I have no answer, and that was part of the big mistake that Moses makes, in my opinion.
In a moment, yes. Yes. So yes, they are, this is why I want you to, I hope you feel it. I hope that you feel like how horrid they felt. They didn't know what else to do in this moment. How could there be such lack of faith? How could you do this again? And they're taking it personally also, which also contributes to what's about to happen, I think. Because it becomes very personal, you're doing this to me, I think they're thinking. Not just to everyone else. I think Moses and Aaron are thinking, how could you do this to me? Me who schleps you all the way. Look at me, both me and Aaron, right? So the two of us schlep you. This is ridiculous. I don't know what else to do. So we're going to go ask God because I don't know what else to do. We are lost. We're flabbergasted. You have pushed us to the limit. We don't know what else to do. Yeah.
For those who have lost a parent, it's very similar to what Moses is going through here. Because it's that moment of emptiness, not knowing where to be. He's totally helpless.
Yeah.
He's totally
Well, he lost his sister. Yeah, I mean, he lost a sibling. He's also in an incredible amount of pain. So is Aaron. But they are in immense amount of pain for themselves. Who knows what the mourning window, looks like? Were they still in mourning in the middle of all of this? We don't know yet. So they could have been right? So Miriam just dies, and now really like Etu, like you're really also pushing against us right now. We're dealing with the loss of our sister.
But Mary was really more like a mother to him than a sister.
Absolutely. She's the one who watched him the whole way through. The loss is immense, immense. This is why I want us to feel the space that we're in here. Yeah. Yeah.
I can't help but feel that there has to be a lot of disappointment on the part of Moses, because it's 2 generations later. People are not self-sufficient. They're still looking for him to solve all their problems. I mean, how would a parent feel? So how must Moses feel?
Yeah. Also beautiful. There's this learned helplessness that the people are still at. And if we go to the parent or the big sister concept, to look back and think, I thought I did better. I thought I reared you better, that you'd be better in this situation, that you'd be able to cope better. I thought I provided a better coping mechanism for you when push comes to shove, that you don't just bail on everything and revert back to an old system, right? So feel the agony and the frustration that they're having here, that the two of them are having. So they go and they try and speak to God in 6, and now we're on 7.
The presence of the Eternal appeared to them, and the Eternal One spoke to Moses, saying, You and your brother Aaron take the rod and assemble the community, and before their very eyes order the rock to yield its water. Thus you shall produce water for them from the rock and provide drink for the congregation and their beasts.
Okay, so without hesitation, and sometimes God makes some jumps and hoops and leaps, doesn't do any of that here. God just, what does God say? Specific instructions, right? So maybe also God gets what's going on here, very specific. And maybe God sees the level of frustration that Aaron and Moses are in, and how desperate they are in the moment, and gives them very specific instructions. No dances, no roundabouts, no guessing. Just do this. It says, right, all you have to do is you pick up the rod and what? Strike the rock. And if you hit the rock, then what happens? Water comes out. All right. So now we're on 9.
Moses took the rod from before the Eternal as he had been commanded. Moses and Aaron assembled the congregation in front of the rock, and he said to them, Listen, you rebels, shall we get water for you from out of this rock? And Moses raised his hand and struck the rock twice with his rod. Out came copious water, and the community and their beasts drank.
Okay. Okay. Right. Right. Right.
What I would say is, given their state of mind,
Right.
he's like, oh, I've done this before.
Yeah.
And he approaches the rock, and he's like on
Yes.
You kind of hear the direction, but you don't hear the direction.
Absolutely. Yes.
He's mad.
Yes. Yes. This is maybe my favorite piece of Torah. Maybe. Outside of Shabbat, clearly. But, so, yes.
Were these the same people that came out of Egypt as slaves?
No. No, next generation.
It's like they don't know how to cope. They need a leader.
Yeah?
And it's like almost reminds me of communism. They didn't know how to deal with life
Yeah.
after communism.
Yeah. It's a learned helplessness. Yeah. But what's the transition in the moment here? Right? There's this awful level of frustration that's built up. God gives them the exact instruction. The exact instruction. And what does Moses do? He didn't follow it. Not only did he didn't follow it, but he ad-libs in his frustration. Let's leave the action out of it, but he ad-libs. Right? And he says, listen, you rebels, you people, I'm sick of you people. I'm schlepping with you, well, I'm schlepping you 1.2 million people who don't listen, who don't care, who don't follow instructions, who don't understand the fact that me and my brother are in mourning, sick and tired of your nonsense. This is, I'm tired of it. You rebels. You want water? You want water? I'll give you water. Right? You want water? I'll give you water. And takes the rod like he's supposed to, and then he hits the rock. And then he hits it again. And then what happens, by the way? Water comes out. Water comes out, and once the water comes out, everyone shuts up. Community and the beast drank. It doesn't even go on to say anything else. Everyone was like, oh, yay, water. Okay.
But I can imagine, because even I do this sometimes, when you're emphasizing a point, you might hit a table or whatever, where it's almost that natural instinct of I'm emphasizing what I just said.
Yeah.
It's an automatic
Yeah.
action.
It's automatic. Particularly if you're really, really, really frustrated or really sad or really beat up. Yeah.
It's easy to have faith and believe in something when things are going well.
Yeah.
It's very easy. You have food, you have water, you have a clear time frame in mind, you see the land, these other people are angry, sure, but if you know what's going on, it's easy. But when things are going tough, that's the real test of faith. That's the real test of believing. And this might be the first time that things are actually going very roughly for Moses and Aaron.
Mm-hmm.
People may have been arguing, may be quarreling, complaining, all this stuff, but Moses had dramatic irony. Despite what people thought on screen, he knew what was going on behind the scenes. Now he doesn't. This is his true test of faith. The first time, he fails.
Yeah. He fails. He totally fails. Yeah.
What does it say? Because I don't read it here, and I don't remember a story where God tells Moses to go hit the rock. He says, place the staff on the rock, not to hit it.
Where?
He hits it twice.
Where? Here you mean, or previously? No. Yeah. He says he. It says he's. No. He just says he just says strike it.
No, it's
Oh no. He says order it. That's the problem. He says order though. He says just speak to it.
In other words, God said, talk to a rock.
Yeah. Talk to the rock.
Say this to Moses.
It's like talking to the people.
Exactly. Talk to the rock. He doesn't say hit the rock. He says to hit the rock in. He says to hit the rock in Exodus. No, that's the problem. Twice. That's the problem. Very angry. Correct. And by the way, I love Moses. I love Moses. But he has a temper. And he's very quick. The fuse is short. Also, we know this because he murders a taskmaster. He drops the tablets. There are a lot of times in his life where he just is the fuse is short, and his fuse was short here. And And it goes on to the point that it's sometimes we're measured in the moments where the going gets tough, not when things are really easy. While you were saying that, I was thinking to myself of the motzi. You know, we all know the motzi. It's really exciting when the food is all set in front of us, and you say motzi, and then you eat. It's delicious. But the rabbis say if you don't do the blessing after the meal, by the way, it's as if there's a commentary that says it's as if you are stealing the food, like actual theft, like an actual robbing a bank, because you're not thankful for the food after you eat, because you're nice and satiated and you feel full and you feel good about yourself. But you don't go back to thank God for the fact that all the food that you ate wasn't yours to begin with, that what you're eating. So the comment you were saying about making decisions when it's easy and comfortable and the food's in front of us and we're like, oh, I'm going to eat now. But when you're satiated and when you're like, oh, I should think about something else right now, you're not. So it's why you were talking. I was thinking about the two, not hitting rocks. But so he hits the rock twice, and then we get to 12, which we can talk more about. Yeah, go ahead.
Wasn't there something when he was before Pharaoh and God said strike the rock and it became a snake or something?
No, it was drop the staff.
Yeah, that was with Aaron too. Yeah, yeah. But he hits the rock. So we'll talk about that in a second. So here we're on verse 12.
But the Eternal One said to Moses and Aaron, because you did not trust me enough to affirm my sanctity in the sight of the Israelite people, therefore you shall not lead this congregation into the land that I have given them.
Yep. One more verse.
Those are the waters of Meribah, meaning that the Israelites quarreled with the Eternal, whose sanctity was affirmed through them.
Okay.
That's last sentence doesn't make a lot of sense to me.
That's okay. So, yes, don't worry. Okay. The last sentence, what do you mean? Meaning that the...
These are the waters of Meribah. Okay.
Yes?
Meaning that the Israelites quarreled with the Eternal? Like that's what the water...
Of Meribah means, yeah. Yeah, it's also, because it has the word Merivah, and Merivah means to argue or to quarrel.
And then whose sanctity was affirmed?
Through which God affirmed, yes.
It's interesting that the reason given for that is you didn't affirm my sanctity in front of the people. It's not that you lost faith for a moment. It's that you lost faith in front of these people who you were supposed to lead.
Yeah. Yeah.
Did they know he was supposed to only strike it once? I mean,
Or not at all.
Or not at all. You're not supposed to strike it at all here. Just talk. You're supposed to talk to the rock. Just talk to the rock and water will come out. So some people say that maybe the people did hear, and because that's the part where Moses takes upon himself to ad-lib and say, you want water, rebels? I'll give you water. There's also a commentary that says that Moses suddenly, for the first time, wanted the people to think that he was bringing forth the water instead of God bringing forth the water. By saying, I'll give you water, it wasn't him doing that, and so it's another strike against him. Yes?
I read a commentary that said exactly that, and went further, that supposedly Moses didn't look at the Israelites when he was doing this. He looked towards the rock with his back to them.
In this anger. He was just in a...
Because he was, again, trying to make himself the deliverer of the message, not God, and the message of God.
Yes. So now, take all of this, and you can judge Moses in a lot of different ways here, right? Did he make a ton of mistakes in this moment? Absolutely. 100%. However, he was a human. And being put in that situation, even mildly for any one of us, we might have acted in the same exact way, out of utter and total frustration, loss and anger and sadness and frustration. And the question is this: why does God change the way in which to get the water? Because the water in the same spot, in the same situation, was brought forth by hitting the rock. So why does God suddenly in this moment ask Moses to speak to the rock? Why not do the same exact thing? Yes.
I think to God's point, where it's not the action of hitting the rock that brings forth the water. It was you telling the rock to bring forth the water, to provide water.
Yeah. I'm saying the why switch it, because in Exodus,
Because he wanted to show, like, he's proven to the Israelites, it's still me, God, providing this for you. It's not some sort of action being taken. It's the command of provide water. You're still asking it, praying of it to God, and God is providing.
interesting. Yeah, yes.
I think I pick out, I was trying to get things for real life. How I can get it.
Yes.
So this was an opportunity for Moses to be consummate leader and to follow talking to a rock, getting the rock to produce water,
Yeah.
and not getting angry with people, but showing them how the leadership and how it can be. And he fails. I mean, I can see it in my daily life and why people look to me to be a leader, and not to be angry with them for the mistake they make, not be
Yeah.
complaining.
Yeah.
It's my opportunity to show them the path of how to do it, and kind of like we talk about mission statement in business.
Yeah.
Keep back on the mission, back on the focus. And Moses clearly failed that leadership position.
Yeah. Do we think the punishment fits the crime, though?
Yes.
Do we think that not going into the land, the thing that he's been trying to do for his entire existence, should be taken away from him?
Yeah, because otherwise he would have gone in because he was trying to say he's God away.
Ah,
And
okay.
he would have gone in as a leader into Israel. The Bible said this several times, and I agree with him. But he would have he would have stopped them from growing up.
No, Bob was like, all right, I'll take it. He was like, oh, thank you. He had like the, I thank you look. Thank you very much. Yeah?
Moses, if he would have gone into Israel with the Israelites, he could have taken on a deity position. Yes.
Right, so there's also, of course, the conversation, by the way, fast forward all the way to Deuteronomy, where Moses gets buried, and there's no marking, right? That could we possibly, we talk about this all the time. Could you imagine what the grave of Moses would look like on a daily basis? Could you imagine how many people, it doesn't matter if you're Jewish or you're Muslim or you're a Buddhist or you're a Hindu, everyone knows Moses. Could you imagine like the prayers to the monument that would exist? And so there's a reason that perhaps he doesn't get to go in, nor do we get to know where he's buried, because
Do we have a current place where Miriam is buried?
no place. The only place that we really know is Merat Machpelah, the cave of Machpelah, and Rachel's tomb. The rest we don't really know.
We know she was in Kadesh, wherever that might be.
Right.
I guess that's a big place.
So yeah, it's still a biblical area. You could still find it in the south. So yeah, yes.
Now, we do have current examples of this in the Muslim world. The Kaaba, you've got millions of people.
Yeah, millions of people.
around This structure.
Right.
And also historically in the United States, they offered George Washington an occasion. And he chose not to for this very reason.
Yeah.
That they were looking to eliminate that sort of thing. And, we can't have Moses becoming the deity.
Yeah. So I always think of, there's a very modern commentary. I don't remember exactly the source of it, but it's the story of the person who founds a company and realizes the company is growing and growing and growing, and is introduced at some point to the computer. And someone says to him, you'll do a better job if you switch from keeping your records on paper invoices and in boxes in the back room. You'll do a better job if you have a computer. It's going to make things much more efficient. And it's at that moment that the business owner can make the decision that I surrender the way that I do things all the time, or do I try something new and different to allow my company to grow and change? And it's possible that in that moment, Moses doesn't know how to transition from the Rolodex. He doesn't know how to get out of there. He doesn't know. So it's possible, the commentary says, he only knows how to hit the rock. That's all he knows. He doesn't know how to speak to the rock. He doesn't know how to transition in the leadership phase. And because of that, he does what he did previously. He couldn't hear or understand, talk to the rock. He only knows how to hit the rock, so he hits the rock.
The sound
What's that?
of the thing just went red, so they lost the sound.
Oh, you lost the sound? That's weird. How about now? Better?
Good gal?
Sound back?
Yes.
All right, great. Odd. Okay, yeah.
Letting us know.
Thank you.
I went to sleep.
So yeah, the owl got tired. Yeah. So yeah. It's daylight. Very good. Nice job. Yes. Yes.
I'm trying to think for timing purposes here. At the end of the 40 years is all of Deuteronomy is a speech he gives.
Yeah.
At the 40 years, they're about to cross it. Moses dies at the end of Deuteronomy. At the end of the 40 years, he dies. And then as soon as the Israelites cross into Egypt, there's going to be war.
Yeah.
Moses is an old man about to die. Can't be getting ready and fighting for war. Is there any commentary on if this was all an elaborate test by God to give to Moses? And if so, why was this given? And was this designed for Moses to fail so that way he could have the death sentence to ensure there was a new leader bringing them into Egypt to successfully fight the Canaanites and actually survive there?
It's possible. It's all the answer is maybe, for sure. The other option, by the way, is that we'll see as time goes on after this, because we find out that Joshua is going to be the one that's going to take them in, that because Moses realizes in that same commentary I mentioned about the Rolodex, that Joshua comes in and is the one that says, you know, if you put your stuff in a computer, you're going to be a lot better going into the future. It's just going to be a lot more efficient. That Moses realizes maybe in this moment after it's done, that Moses realizes, yeah, I brought them as far as I could have. It's just as much as I could have done. I don't know how to talk to the rock. So maybe Joshua knows how to do that. And so maybe for the good of the people, for the good of my company, I'm going to relinquish the control and I'm going to pass it on because I'd rather see the company succeed than me going down with the ship. To say like, it's going to go my way or no other way, and not seeing the signs, hypothetically. So maybe it was just set up that way. Maybe it's set up that way because Moses needed it to also start to realize moving forward that I did a great job. And there's a beautiful commentary, but by the way, it's a super fast-forward commentary, but it's one of the number one commentaries that's known, is that that after Moses hears this, he is obviously distraught. He is broken. He says, well, why did I do all of this? Why did I do all of this work and schlep the people, and now only to find out that I'm not going to make it into the land, and all my work will be for nothing. So the commentary is that, and it's you don't have to take it, but it's one of the most popular commentaries, is that God says to Moses, I know you're upset, but let me show you something. And God takes Moses into the future and shows him a classroom. And in the classroom, he sees that the teacher is teaching about Moses and shows him, don't worry, the legacy of you will live on forever and ever and ever and ever. And even though you're not succeeding in this moment, you're going to be the ultimate teacher forever and ever and ever. So there's a commentary that's not far after this to calm him, to say, and you know what? It was right. So all we do is talk about Moses. I mean, as great as Abraham and Isaac and all those people were, and Sarah, Rebecca, Rachel, every one of them don't make it out of Genesis, right? They all don't. All those people that we know about, all die in Genesis. It's Moses that gets Exodus, Leviticus, Numbers, and Deuteronomy. So the entire Torah really is about Moses. So, and we use it as the construct of which we teach on a daily basis, on a weekly basis. We're going to read the Torah. So it obviously works. This is also coming from a person who is a big Moses fan, but he clearly screws up here. He clearly screws up, and there's a punishment for it. So I just want to, what's that? Yeah, please.
His frustration is like he wants the Israelites to cut him some slack because
Yeah.
of where he is and what just happened to him and all. God doesn't cut him some slack.
Right? Yeah. There's no slack that's cut. Yeah. It's just this is it. Yeah. There's no, and if you do believe that the punishment matches the crime, one can say also, we talk about this all the time, that the higher the ranking, if you will, the smaller window you have for mistakes, right? Because whether it's fair or unfair, the burden is on you. So when Moses makes a mistake, it's larger than the regular person making the mistake, because there has to be a larger consequence for everyone to see that you shouldn't do that. Yeah.
And I like what he said. It's almost a blessing in disguise that it happened that way, because had Moses gone into Israel, he may have very well been too old, too weak to be the leader that was needed at that time in Israel.
Yeah, too old, too weak, and maybe didn't have the ability to see the future in the way that Joshua did. And by the way, just to fast forward too, the system is so broken for so many years after Moses dies. Joshua doesn't really work well. After Joshua are the judges. The judges don't work well. After the judges, they tried kings. The kings were terrible. I mean, I just fast forward hundreds and hundreds of years into the future, but the people didn't figure this out for a long time. It's really not until the prophetic system, till we get to Isaiah, that the ship starts to balance itself and the people start to transition and the new Judaism starts to sort of function. But it's not till Isaiah, because the judges think they have it, and it's a huge mess. And then we get to Samuel, and Samuel makes the kings, and the kings, we know the kings screw up, so royally. So get that? You're welcome. Yes.
That what you're talking about is where I think Moses made his greatest failure, because he didn't facilitate a succession plan. Getting younger people to talk to younger people and being in the leadership role and letting them make the mistakes and not him make the mistakes and him drifting to the side. That's the biggest mission, the biggest question in our life is being able to create a succession plan with our family, with our businesses.
Yeah.
And those that don't do it, chaos.
Fail, right? You don't like, you have to know when to pivot. You have to know when to see the future and when to pivot, and the people who pivot do a great job. Right? I mean, it's like, I often think of, like, of Blockbuster into Netflix, right? Blockbuster, who you can, if you were a Blockbuster, if you ever went to Blockbuster and you had a Blockbuster card, it was like the greatest thing ever. It was the greatest thing since sliced bread. You couldn't imagine. You going in, the whole experience was nice. You stood there, you talked to people next to you, you got your video, you went home, you got the three of them, whatever you wanted. Now they got smarter, and they had popcorn you could buy on the way out, and you could buy Twizzlers on the way out, and it was like, I'm going, the whole movie experience was great. By the way, as a side note, I'd bring home 3 movies, and Lisa also hated all of the choices. For every time I went, I always failed. And then thankfully, I had the cell phone. I would be like, do you want this? And she'd say no, so I got whatever. So, everyone remembers, Be Kind, Rewind, right? You remember all that? And then that whole beautiful thing completely fails because they didn't see that, because Netflix was starting to do the same exact thing, if you remember. It's just because that, right? And then you could buy a couple of discs in the mail. Do you even mind? Some of you don't even, you two don't even know what we're talking about. You used to get them in the mail? Yeah, you guys used to get them in the mail. Use the envelope, and then you don't know what to do with it. Exactly, the whole thing. And that they didn't see what was coming. So they didn't see it. And so the failure happens, and maybe Moses just needed, this was what Moses needed. Maybe, yes.
Yeah, but on the other hand, newer isn't always better.
Right.
And I would imagine that there are lots of failures in the video rental business.
Yeah.
That we don't know about.
I'm sure.
Because they weren't what became Netflix. And again, this choice
I'll just say laser discs for you. Like laser disc failed terribly. Yeah.
This new is now a choice by God.
Yeah.
God has created this new. And
Yeah.
again, an example of God needing to grow and knowing how the people are really going to react. God
Yeah.
doesn't always get it right.
No, that's true. Yeah, God doesn't always get it right, or at least in our perception, God doesn't always get it right. So that sort of varies, because we don't know. All right, it's true. We don't know. Maybe it's just whatever. Maybe we're understanding whatever we can understand because it's all we're capable of understanding, hypothetically. But yes, how about that? Here you go. That was a good one. That one hit you for sure. So, and then just to add to this, to end in a complicated way. If you jump, we're still in 20. By the way, we're still in chapter 20. Just go to verse 27. So 20:27.
Moses did as the Eternal had commanded. They ascended Mount Hor in the sight of the whole community. Moses stripped Aaron of his vestments and put them on his son Eleazar, and Aaron died there on the summit of the mountain.
Okay, so this Torah portion, that's what I'm saying, is one of the worst for Moses because not only does he have to go through the rebellion from last week and enter into this week, we find out that Miriam dies. We get another set of rebellion. He finds out he's not going into the land, and then his brother dies. All in this week's Torah portion. You think Moses kills him? I don't think so. I don't. Definitely not. I don't think so. Well, because he's told to take the vestments off. It's not automatic. God says to do it. So yeah, and another transition because it goes to his son. It goes from Aaron to his son, and there's the next level of the priesthood. This goes back to your question about had we kept with the system. Here's Eleazar. So yeah, who's the next priest? So I think there are a lot of components we can take away from the Torah portion. Yeah?
And the community bewailed Aaron's loss for 30 days. I mean, it mentions the fact that they took time to mourn Aaron, but nothing was mentioned about it.
Nothing's mentioned about Miriam. It's true. In fact, if you look up the name Miriam, if you just do like a search in the text, I think her name is mentioned less than 5 times. The name Miriam is mentioned less than 5 times. The idea of her, we don't even know her name, by the way, at the beginning of the story, that she's looking out for Moses. Her name isn't mentioned there. Her name doesn't get mentioned until much, much later in the text. So although her presence looms large, her name isn't really mentioned that much. So that's a fact. It's a whole other conversation about Miriam. But I think the Torah portion has a lot to show us, not just textually on how Moses was feeling and how the feelings were occurring, but also to think of and putting ourselves in those situations to think, similar to what Susie was saying, how would we have acted? Do you think we would have each individually acted in this way? Do you think we would have the strength to have gone through this? And particularly in our frustration, being put into Moses's, we'll say, sandals, do we think that we would have not hit the rock twice?
See, I probably would have. I want to know Moses' birthday because he sounds very much like an Aries. So I want to know Moses' birthday because he sounds very much like an Aries.
Oh, there is. Moses' birthday is, according to ultra-Orthodox commentary, they have it. They pieced it together. You can probably Google it.
Oh.
You can probably actually go to Chabad.org, is my guess, and I think on Chabad.org they have his date because there is commentary as to people who die around their birthdays. It's thought that people who die around their birthdays are very righteous, are extremely righteous people, because according to the commentary, Moses dies on his birthday. So We also know the Moses he dies at 120, and that's also the phrase that we use, you shall live till 120. So that's also, all comes from Moses.
So if he was 120, he might have just lost his balance.
Perfect way to end. That was beautiful. Yes, he was like, oh, that was it. That's it. That was probably it. So, thank you for all of the thoughtful commentary. And what is it? February 26th, according to Chabad.org. Is that what it says? Yeah. Yeah. All right, we are going to continue with a little Torah reading. So Torah blessings can be found on page 250. 250 are the Torah blessings. Yeah. There's also date. I know Chabad.org has all the dates.
The beginning of Chukah, 19:1.
19:1. That's it. That's it. Is it? That's it. Yeah. There's okay. For the honor of the Aliyah, we're going to invite Debbie Aberlin to join us. You did a lot of work today. You read. You're coming up for the Aliyah. So here, come here. That was expected. Not as much with the reading.
This one.
Oh, this was expected. The reading. All right, great.
That's okay.
Ta'amod. Hebrew name.
Devorah
Dvorah
Libi.
Libi bat.
Chaya
Yitzchak.
Shalom.
Shalom v'chaya. L'aliyat Torah.
Baruch Adonai HaMvarach.
Baruch Adonai HaMvarach le'olam va'ed.
Baruch Adonai HaMvarach le'olam va'ed. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam. Asher bachar banu micho ha'amim v'natan lanu et Torato. Baruch atah Adonai noten ha'Torah.
Amen.
Amen. Vayidaber Adonai El Moshe El Aharon Lemor. Zot Chukat HaTorah Asher Tziva Adonai Lemor. Daber El Bnei Yisrael Vayikhu Elecha Farah Aduma Temima Asher Ein Ba Muhum Asher Lo Ala Aleha Ol Untatem Otah El Elazar HaKohen Vehotzi Ota El Michut LaMachaneh V'shachat Ota Lefanav V'lakach Elazar HaKohen Midama Be'etzba'o V'hizah El Nocha Penei Ohel Moed Midama Sheva Pe'amim.
Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam asher natan lanu Torah emet v'chayei olam nata b'tochenu. Baruch atah Adonai noten ha'Torah.
Amen.
Yasher koach.
And thanks for reading.
Yeah.
With the Torah in front of us, we think of those who are in need of healing, physical, emotional, or spiritual healing. If there's a name that you are thinking of and you would like to share their name, please share their name at this time. Let's start with Anyone on the Zoom?
Jacob, Jerry Cruz, Mark Horowitz, Roger Beaver.
Danny Tankus, all those affected by war, hate crimes, and violence.
Okay. משבח אבותינו ואמותינו אברהם, יצחק ויעקב, שרה, רבקה, רחל ולאה, הוא ברך את החולים. הקדוש ברוך הוא ימלא רחמים עליהם, להחלימם ולפותם ולהחזיקם, וישלח להם מהרה רפואה שלמה מן השמיים, רפואת הנפש ורפואת הגוף. השתה בגלה בזמן קריב, ונאמר אמן. May the one who blessed our ancestors, Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob, Sarah, Becca, Rachel, and Leah, bless and heal those who are ill. May the Blessed Holy One be filled with compassion for their health be restored and their strength be revived. May God swiftly send them a complete renewal of body and spirit, as together we say, Amen. We are going to raise and dress the Torah. Now we're on page 252 at the bottom. Please stand, and we're going to invite all of our crew. Who's coming up? Who's going to come up for our raising and dressing? Oh yeah? Did you outdo the columns? Nice. Yeah, it's a little upside down.
וזאת התורה אשר שם משה לפני בני ישראל על פי אדוני ויד משה. תורה, 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 ציווה לנו משה. תורה, 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 ציווה לנו משה. Torah, 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 tzivah lanu Moshe. Torah, 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 tzivah lanu Moshe. Page 256. Yehalelu et Shem Adonai, ki niska shemo levado, hodo al eretz v'shamayim, vayarem keren le'amo, tila lechol chasidav, livnei Yisrael am kerovo. Hallelujah. Hallelujah, ki lechak tov natati lachem torati al ta'azovu etz chaim hi lama chazikim ba v'tomcheha meushar דרכיה דרכי נועם
v'chol netivoteha shalom. Hashivenu Adonai elecha v'nashuva. Chadesh, Chadesh Yameinu, Chadesh Yameinu kekedem. Quick announcements. Still looking for any items you'd like to bring to donate to the Little Free Pantry, particularly in the summertime. Because a lot of the younger students who would typically not necessarily need to come to the Little Free Pantry because of school lunches, are not getting the school lunches, and so any items that you're able to bring would really be helpful for us for donations for the summertime. Our next Coffee and Conversation, our summer version, is I think July 12th. Cantor Muchnick is going to be teaching that one. I think I think it's at 11:30. I want to say. And there's food provided and learning. I think Rabbi Kahn did the first one. Oh no, I think this is the first one. And then there's another two. I think Rabbi Kahn's doing the next one, and I'm doing one in August. And Mahjong still going, so join us for that. I think that there's going to be a Chardonnay Shabbat. I forgot the date of that. What's the date? Oh, the 14th. That's right. July 14th is our next Chardonnay Shabbat. So that's services followed by heavy hors d'oeuvres and an open bar. So hope that you'll join us for that, for services. And like I said at the beginning of the service, there'll be a lot more information coming at you on some new Israel initiatives. We're going to do a lot more conversations about Israel in the coming months, particularly on Friday night. So stay tuned for lots of cool Israel stuff too, as we're compiling for the whole year. Also, start thinking about the high holidays are not that far away. So if there's something you'd like to participate in, by the way, to participate in the high holidays, it's in some shape or form, then very lucky that we have the person you should talk to right here in our chapel, and that is Susie. So if you'd like to participate somehow in the high holidays, she is your contact person. We're going to be starting that up soon, pretty quickly. The sign-ups for who wants to do some honors. We're going to continue now with Aleinu, which can be found on page 282.
Aleinu l'shabeach l'adon hakol, latet gedula liyotzeh breshid, shelo asanu kagoye haratzot, velo samanu kamishbechot ha'adama, shelo sam chelkenu kahem, v'gor aleinu kechol hamonam. V'anachnu korim u'mishtachavim u'modim lifnei melech malchei hamlachim hakadosh baruch hu. V'ne'emar v'haya Adonai lemelech al kol haaretz. Bayom hahu, yeh Adonai echad, u'shemo echad.
Just prior to reciting Mourner's Kaddish, want to mention pre-burial the loss of David Newmark, who was a husband of Sandra Newmark, father of Howie Newmark. And so we think of all the Newmarks, Howie and Eileen, and all of his children and grandchildren, and great-grandchildren. Service will be up north this week, but a Shiva minyan will be held here at CBI on Wednesday, July 5th at 7 p.m. It's probably going to be in the chapel. It'll probably be in this room. So just to let you know, there'll be a Shiva minyan service here Wednesday, July 5th at 7 p.m. It'll be here, and there'll be a bit of a Aruchat Havra'ah, a meal of consolation, a meal of consolation following that service. Now, in the period of Shiva, the immediate 7-day mourning period, we think of Isaac Rockwell Llewellyn, untimely loss, son of Roberta Abrams and Dan Llewellyn, grandson of our members, Elaine and Alan Abrams, and Philippa Zylanoff. That funeral was on Tuesday. Our Shloshim, our immediate 30-day mourning period, we think of Edward Hauber, Arthur Stricker, and Harry Marin. And our Yortzites for this week: May Tools, Martin Stein, Betty Joy, Provisor Starkman, Herman Feld, Morris Vague, Charles Lifton, Sylvia Fisher, Ethel Ehrlich, Morris Starkman, Abby Melnick, Calvin Delano, Florence Werner, Marvin Joseph, Erwin Kravitz, Barry Beloff. To those names, we had any name that you'd like to add at this time.
Albert Mogul, Sam Cowan.
Kadisha Tom Owners Kaddish 294. Yitkadal v'kadash me'rabah be'alma divrach yuteh ve'amlich malchuteh b'chaye echon v'yom echon u'b'chaye d'chol beit Yisrael ba'agala v'izman kariv v'imru amen. Yehe shmei rabah mevorach le'olam ulmei olmaya yitbarach v'yishtabach v'yitpa'a v'yitromam v'yitnaseh v'yitada v'yitaleh v'yitalal shmei d'kodesha brichu le'ela min kol birchata v'shirata תשפחתה ונחמתה, דאמירן בעמה ואמרו אמן. יהי שלמה רבה מן שמיה, וחיים עלינו ועל כל ישראל ואמרו אמן. עושה שלום במרומיו, הוא יעשה שלום עלינו ועל כל ישראל ואמרו אמן. May the one who creates harmony on high bring peace to us and to all Israel, as together we say amen. Please be seated. We're going to end with America the Beautiful, in honor of Yom Ha'atzmaut for July 4th in just a few days. I think it's in the book too, isn't it?
Page 377.
377 if you want to follow along with the in the Siddur. 377.
And we're going to sing the first verse and the fifth verse, which is right next to it, instead of going down, right? Oh, beautiful for spacious skies, for amber waves of grain, for purple mountain majesties above the fruited plain. America, America, God shed God's grace on thee, and crown thy good with brotherhood from sea to shining sea. Oh, beautiful for heroes proved in liberating strife, who more than self their country loved, and mercy more than life. America, America, God shed God's grace on thee, and crown thy
sea to shining sea. Adonai is the Moiten, Adonai Baruch Tamava Shalom. God to give strength unto our people. Continue to bless us with hope and strength and love and peace. Thank you so much, Robin. And thank you, Debbie, for being our reader and for Aliyah. Shabbat Shalom, everyone. Shabbat Shalom. Shabbat Shalom, everyone. Shabbat Shalom. Live stream, everyone. Live stream and Zoom. Shabbat Shalom.